Oleg and Alyona are on a date in the near future in the city of Moscow. During their conversation, Oleg describes himself as a soldier taking a 2-week vacation. The date is successful, and they decide to stay together the entire night. In the meantime, an aircraft is about to touch down in Paris when all of a sudden its lights go out and everyone on board passes out. Soon, the entire globe loses power, leaving only a small portion of Eastern Europe with light. When the drones that circle Moscow suddenly stop moving, Oleg and Alyona hurry to the hotel lobby to investigate. To hear the news, everyone in the building has gathered there. The anchorman explains that while initially they believed it to be a terrorist attack, they have now realized they have lost communication with the rest of the world. This wasn't a result of any natural catastrophe. One of the many cities that is now in darkness is Kirov, and a group of soldiers under Mayor Dolmatov are sent there on a recon assignment. Olga, a journalist, travels with them to document any leads they might make. Although the government has already sent drones into this region, none of them have returned. The team explores the city before entering a store, where they use special slime lights to get a closer look. They soon realize that everyone inside the store, including the fish in the bowl, is dead. They are left wondering how everyone died because there are no signs of an attack. Everything just seems to have occurred suddenly and out of nowhere. Then they start looking into various apartments, where they discover everything to be in its proper position and as if nothing had happened. Once more, it appears as though everything occurred in an instant and that the people simply disappeared. One of the soldiers is abruptly assaulted by an unknown entity. As the rest of the squad rushes to aid him, the being grabs the soldier's weapon and flees through the window as soon as he notices them. The squad fires right away, but the being flees as if unaffected by the gunfire. They ask the wounded soldier if he saw the face of his assailant on the way to their aircraft, but the darkness in the fight made it impossible for him to see anything. A month later, the government attempts to reassure the people who are still alive that more than 100 million Russians are dead. Religious organizations are assembling, though, as they believe the world is about to end. Hira, a common civilian, gets a letter asking him to enlist in the army in the meantime. Hira enters the army despite his pain at leaving his Alzheimer's-stricken mother behind, who he lives with. He observes the condition of the world as he heads to the base because it only took a month for the streets to appear post-apocalyptic. Hira eventually joins Oleg's team after Dolmatov and Colonel Marina briefed them on the present circumstances. The only places with electricity are in Moscow, parts of Belarus, Ukraine, and Finland, which are collectively referred to as the Circle of Life. Every metropolis in darkness is regarded as being in quarantine. Endogenous neurotoxins, which are chemicals generated by the human body, were the cause of death in some cases when recon teams return with bodies. The two objectives for the new teams are discover hints that will help the scientists determine the source to move further into the quarantine area in order to gather resources because Moscow is running short is behind these neurotoxins. They must exercise caution because despite having tanks to defend them, many of the teams they have already sent have not returned. More volunteers show up as everyone is getting ready, and Oleg is startled to see Alyona among them. An alarm warning of an impending assault suddenly sounds. The troops assemble at the base's border with the quarantine zone because it appears that a large enemy group is approaching from the nearby direction. When the base's electricity returns, Dolmatov starts firing flares to improve visibility. When the strange beings are near enough, the soldiers then start firing. Oleg loses consciousness as some of these creatures manage to enter the facility and start attacking everyone they come across. Oleg awakens the following morning bearing the weight of a deceased foe. Oleg can now see that the strange being was actually a sizable bear after Yura sees he's still alive and requests assistance moving the body. In reality, there are dozens of bear bodies on the other side of the border, and nobody knows why they behaved like that. Olga is also present and is documenting everything for the press. When Oleg is brought to the hospital, he is shocked to discover that Alyona is a doctor. She tends to his wounds and gives him a kiss of consolation when he is in agony. In the meantime, Marina and Dolmatov talk about the Censors, a group of individuals who are said to have acquired special abilities following the Blackout. In contrast to popular belief, Censors can truly receive data in their minds similarly to how radios do, according to Marina. They haven't been able to understand the statistics or how this occurred, though. Sasha, who is being confined in a military hospital, is the strongest censor. He has been experiencing frequent nightmares about a mysterious bald man ever since the Blackout. Genya, who claims to have been sent by a man called ID, is currently paying him a visit. The third wave will cause anyone still living in the quarantine zone to attack them, he says, after the first two waves destroyed all electronics and biological organisms and the second wave caused all electronics to self-destruct. They are numerous and have lost their ability to exercise free will, but they still have time to do so. Sasha requests security because she doesn't want to be involved in this, but the troops are unable to see Genya and inform the doctor that Sasha is having a hallucination. The remaining troops prepare for the task. Olga asks Yura some inquiries for the camera as they travel together. Yura acknowledges that he is content with his present circumstances because they have given his life meaning and are preferable to driving a taxi. When they arrive at the quarantine area, they find the tanks wrecked on the ground and a chasm that cuts through the structures, indicating that the third wave has already started. The footage of this devastation sends the city's remaining population into a panic, sparking riots and an increase in crime. People suspect their leaders are concealing something, despite the government's assurances that they are working on it. To cover more territory, the soldiers are divided into groups. Group 7 includes Yura and Olga, and as they move through the forests, a flirtatious tension develops between them. Oleg, who has been recovered, joins Team 4 as they explore a small village. A group of metal bars fell on top of one of the troops when he opened a storage room, breaking his leg. The group chooses to take it easy inside a house until help arrives. The soldier must travel back to Moscow with Alyon if he wants to avoid losing his limb, she says when she gets there the following morning. Yura observes something odd about a store while Group 7 is eating breakfast. Group 7 also spent the night inside an apartment. He verifies that the doors weren't open when they arrived by checking Olga's recording. After entering the store and discovering proof that someone was there, Yura and a few soldiers decide to set up some traps. The traps won't go off until darkness falls, so they go back to the apartment and wait for that to happen. Everyone prepares to leave, but Yura instructs Olga to remain inside and uses the flares to signal for assistance if they don't return. Olga ultimately defies Yura's orders and continues to follow the squad in order to take notes. They discover a teenager who was hurt by the traps inside the shop. They attempt to assist him by bringing him inside the apartment, but the boy responds by stealing a knife and murdering a soldier. The others gun him down right away in response. In the meantime, Sasha walks to the hospital roof for some fresh air and is startled by ID, the man Zhenya told him about. Zhenya and ID had only ever communicated mentally, but ID is now present and needs Sasha's assistance. In order to persuade Sasha that he is aware of what is happening, ID displays his face and admits he isn't human. At that precise instant, Marina arrives with several soldiers who are pointing their weapons at ID when all of a sudden, the soldiers turn their weapons on Marina. ID warns her not to attempt anything because he used his mental abilities to make the soldiers mistakenly believe she was ID and he was Marina. He also professes to be on Marina's side and warns her that he and millions of others are on their way to annihilate mankind. ID responds that people would view him as a deity when Marina inquires as to what he is. ID is taken to Marina's room where she questions him. ID says that he had intended to begin an irradiation procedure when the moon was above the oceans, but he erred because the moon was covering this region of Europe and shielding it from radiation. Because of how the circle of life came to be, each person in the quarantine area is merely a mindless drone that will shortly launch an attack. The reason the race of ID requires Earth is that their own star is about to expire, and they need a new home with a sun to live in. Then he reveals that there was a wave 0 that occurred thousands of years ago. This wave was the human race, which was essentially an alien bioweapon sent to wipe out Earth's indigenous population. Because they were much more advanced than the current local population, they were the ones who constructed the pyramids and underwater cities. As colonizers and destroyers who share a lot of DNA with Ipopildes but have been devoid of psychic powers, humans make the ideal bioweapon. Some individuals, including Sasha, are getting them back as a result of the unintended radiation. Isabelling D's Ra is already here, but an army from Planet D's will arrive tomorrow. ID disagrees with his tactics and seeks him out, but only Sasha is aware of his whereabouts due to his dreams. All of the teams are abruptly attacked by mind-controlled people in the interim. The enemy arrives in large numbers and attacks without difficulty, killing the majority of the teams and causing them to run out of ammunition as the troops open fire and do their best to form a line of defense. Ira begs Olga to fire the flare when the apartment they're hiding in blows up. But because most teams are acting in the same way, there aren't enough resources to assist everyone. The few members of Group 7 who are still alive will currently wait on a building's top so they are safe from the attackers. A message informing Marina of the attack cuts off their discussion, and ID remarks that they are wasting their time. As Zhenya and Sasha fly to the base with the two of them, ID reveals that he is immortal as long as no one chooses to kill him. As soon as they arrive at the base, ID sends Sasha into a trance, allowing him to draw Ra's location, a skyscraper in Kira. ID wishes to activate the remaining tropes right away, but Dalmatov is unsure of whether to believe him after seeing Eye appearance. As soon as a soldier announces that Moscow is also under attack, Marina persuades Dalmatov that ID is their only chance. Returning to Group 7, they make the decision to descend the structure in an effort to locate the teams that failed to send any lights. Ira kisses Olga to calm her down and carefully lowers her because she is afraid to try. They come across a few people as they are wandering the streets and kill them without even speaking to them. They appeared to be in good health, so Olga is upset, but Yura explains that the teenage boy initially appeared to be in good health as well. A fresh wave of drone humans assaults them as if to support his claim. All the other troops are killed, but Yura is able to repel the attackers despite suffering injuries. They take care of Yura's wound and locate a car with gas and keys that they can use to flee as they rush to hide inside a garage. Sasha admits at the base that he is afraid to leave because he is certain Ra saw him in the vision, and ID agrees to let him remain behind for his safety. Sasha is missing when Dolmatov's team departs in the tanks, and Marina commands everyone to stop when she sees it. The stronghold is suddenly attacked by a barrage of rockets, which cause it to explode. ID acknowledges that Marina is correct as she aims a gun at him in a fit of rage. The team would have perished instead, and the battle would not have been won if Sasha had been with them. Oleg and Aliona are located by Yura and Olga the following morning. There aren't many people remaining on their team, and they are out of ammunition. Fortunately, Dolmatov's squad comes across them shortly after and invites them to join the effort to kill Ra. Olga and Aliona will need to accompany us because there isn't a base where we can dispatch them. The squad reaches Kirov after a number of hours. ID explains to Dolmatov why he's astonished they aren't being attacked. Ra believes he passed away there. The drone humans are blocking the streets, and some of them are launching explosives from above. The army simply advances with the tanks, shooting or destroying any adversaries who attempt to halt them. When they reach the skyscraper, ID takes Yura and a few soldiers to the rooftop while the rest of the group defends the entryway. Oleg takes the civilians upstairs as well because they are unsure how long they will be able to keep up with the fight, which is utterly vicious. ID and the troops confront any intruders inside before meeting Ra on the rooftop. Ra simply pushes Yura away and leaves him hanging on the edge as he attempts to attack Ra. The next time ID assaults Ra, the two are fighting fairly evenly until Yura returns to the roof and a loud explosion is heard in the streets. Ra is then distracted, and ID uses the opportunity to attack him directly and remove a device from inside Ra's body. Ra is ultimately killed when Yura charges in and throws a grenade into the gap left behind. ID can now release every person under his control using his abilities. Since humans were created to kill, he declares that the next stage is to kill the aliens who are arriving in the spaceship. Aliona and Marina object to the way ID is using humans, and Zhenya questions why ID didn't tell them of all this before the blackout. Zhenya attacks ID with a knife after ID claims to be the deity humans deserve, but ID uses his abilities to make him murder Marina instead. Furious, Oleg attempts to attack ID as well, but Yura defends him by saying that ID is their only defense against the approaching invasion. Yura and Oleg start fighting, and when Olga sees that Yura is injuring Oleg, she grabs a pistol and shoots Yura to get him to stop. Zhenya makes another attempt to kill ID, but ID effortlessly repels him. Oleg considers killing Yura but decides to fire ID instead, but the shots have no effect. Oleg is hesitant because ID uses his abilities to make everyone seem like their parent to him. Zhenya, who is a sensor, is able to identify the real ID and jumps to bring him down with him. Upon touching the Earth, they both instantly pass away. A massive spacecraft makes an immediate landing on a number of structures. Oleg refuses to kill Yura and instead takes the gadget ID stole from Ra and the women. The group enters the spaceship after taking some weapons from dead corpses. The spaceship had opened the door because Ra was nearby. Numerous aliens are sleeping in pods inside, and when Oleg pushes the device, oxygen begins to be delivered to those pods. The timer on the pods indicates they will be ready shortly, so it appears Ra was meant to wake them up. However, they don't have enough ammo or time to kill them all. They attempt shooting at them and confirm that it does kill them. Olga observes that the oxygen pipes are on the ground. Destroying one of them results in the simultaneous death of numerous aliens. The invasion is successfully stopped when the trio starts destroying every pipe they can. Aliona freezes as she is about to destroy the final pipe when she learns that these final pods contain children. When Oleg notices the children leaving the pods, he lowers his weapon to the ground because he is unable to harm the children's fellow creatures.